it's rewarding for me too. I actually really enjoy getting in that Blue Jays Discord chat. And after a good outing, and I'll get on there, it'll be like 5 or 6 people that said like chicken strip, good job, or whatever, like fun to see, or good slider there in the third, or whatever it is. Like that stuff's fun for me to get on and read because it's different than the normal Twitter, Instagram interactions that I get.
What's up, Candy fam? My name is Nate. This is Talkin Candy, and today we've got another special guest for another edition of Collector Showcase. We've got Toronto pitcher Ross Stripling. Ross, in his baseball career, has battled back from Tommy John. He took a no-hitter into the 8th inning of his first career start and has been an all-star for the Dodgers before joining Toronto. But cooler than that, at least in my opinion, in the research that I did leading up to this, is that he's also a licensed stockbroker. So during his playing career, he has successfully passed his Series 7 and Series 66, which for those of you who don't know, that's no small feat. And so yeah, Ross, thank you for being here, and looking forward to getting your take on how you approach candy.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me. Yeah, talking about the stockbroker thing, I think you'll start to realize I'm different than Romano, who was on this podcast a couple weeks ago. He collects because he loves it. I collect because it kind of like satisfies the itch of like the business mind of me of like kind of buying, selling, and collecting at the same time. But yeah, man, excited to get into it.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that I was going to ask you, which is that obviously with having that be your background, you're a numbers guy. I can understand that. How does that impact your general approach to candy? How does that make you look at it differently than, say, Jordan?
Yeah, good question. I think Jordan is almost hoarding these cards because he loves them, right? Like he loves looking at them, he loves sorting through them, he loves checking them out. He's stoked to tighten them and all that kind of stuff. And I am too, but on like a much smaller scale. I kind of the way I went about it was I opened no more than 5 packs per drop. I chose to more find cute cards in the marketplace that I wanted, whether it was individual players or just like what I thought was maybe a good deal. And what I would do is just kind of scour the Epic market maybe 3 or 4 times a day and just see if there was one that I thought was undervalued, right? And I found a couple. That's how I got a hater. I think I bought a hater for like $14 when the next closest at the time was in the like mid to high 20s. I bought a Kimbrel. I don't know if he's going to be able to be tightened or not, but he was like super cheap. I bought him. Always love watching him pitch. And Jose Ramirez, I opened in a pack, so then I was scouring the marketplace for some deals on him and just kind of bought 1, 2, 3 as I went. And that's kind of how I built the collection that I have, which I think we'll get into. But yeah, as far as the number stuff, man, it's just I enjoy finding them that I think are a deal, kind of flipping them or at least listing them for a price that is more in line with the marketplace and seeing if I can just kind of build that what's it called, like your candy where you sell stuff and it builds up in your
Yeah, your
own
candy
account.
balance. Candy balance.
Yeah, your candy balance. So, I'll check and have whatever my candy balance and then use that to buy guys that I want to tighten or a card that I think's a deal or whatever. Like I said, just a couple times a day, it just kind of like gets my wheels spinning and kind of gets my business mind going, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, David and I definitely have a very similar mindset when it comes to just enjoying the numbers part of it. Getting a buy for a good deal and honing in on players that maybe are standing out compared to others. So definitely a similar approach, and have had similar things happen where, I opened an Epic Buxton and therefore I'm going to do a Titan for Buxton because I was fortunate enough to pull it. So it fell into my lap. But that's cool. We are going to get into your collection in a bit, and I've got some other questions to ask you on that. But before we jump into that, I wanted to ask where it was that you started with candy. What made you aware of it? And I know that you said that you got into the Stadium Series a little bit. Was that the first thing? So what was kind of the initiation there?
Yeah, good question. I guess it was probably about this time last year, right? Because we're coming on the All-Star game, and that's what the first pack drop collection was the All-Star game from last year. And it was all over like MLB Network. I think even Yankee Stadium had a big digital advertisement for it along their fence. And you're just kind of like, man, what is that stuff? And easy to access. Just go to mlb.candy.com or whatever it is. They're just right there in front of your face. And I didn't know much about NFTs at that time. NFTs, I feel like were kind of blowing up, but really just getting going. And the I do a lot with the stock market, and people always ask me about crypto, man. Like, where you at on crypto? Where you at on crypto? And I was just starting to kind of learn about Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the altcoins and NFTs kind of falling into that. I was like, okay, this is baseball mixed with crypto. I'm trying to learn. Let's see what it's about. And, I just loved it. I love what it looked like. That was the All-Star Game pack. So every player was an A-lister, right? Like it was our best players. So I opened up a couple packs. I bought a couple individual cards on the marketplace. I think I bought a Kevin Gosman the day we signed him in the offseason. I went and bought his. So I think it was about this time last year going to the All-Star game that I remember seeing it for the first time.
Yeah, I same thing for me where I had started educating myself on crypto and NFTs at large, but then when I saw the baseball equivalent to that was a very exciting moment. Turn this into a little bit more of a collectible element, but still having that tradability and having it all be digital just makes it so much easier. So, and in terms of you know, I don't know if you used to collect cardboard, but in terms of having that digital element to it, I know that Jordan had stated that that was a big factor for him, and I would imagine it'd be the same for any professional ball player. You guys are traveling constantly, kind of opens up a world of collecting that wasn't previously feasible for you. So has that played a huge role as well?
Yeah, no doubt. I remember Jordan talking about that in his interview as well. That's spot on, and it's the perfect locker room thing, right? As Romano also touched on, we kind of all follow each other into certain things. That's why crypto is so big with athletes, I think, is we all talk about it. And, one guy gets into it, you get FOMO, you want to get into it too. I feel like candy's a little bit like that. But then, yeah, just the idea that I can have it on my phone, I can look at it at any point. I don't got to carry a big binder around in my backpack when I'm traveling to 30 cities throughout the year. It's funny that I didn't send this in my notes to you, and I remember thinking, like, man, there's one thing I wanted to talk about, and this is it. It just popped up, you asking that. The part about the old collecting, right, whether it's like Pokemon or old baseball cards or whatever, and the way that those remain valuable is ones die over time, right? They get beat up, they get folded in your wallet, or you get lost or whatever. Typically, these will never get lost, right? They're just on the stinking blockchain forever, right? Do you think that actually, um, like you think like the Honus Wagner card, there's like what, two of them left in the whole world? Like these, that won't happen to this. There'll always be a 10 mint. They'll always be around. Wonder if that we can get into this later, but like if that'll affect the value of these things moving forward because you can't lose them. So there's no dwindling asset. They'll be the same forever.
Yeah, I think that's a great point is that it has pros and cons, right? So to your point, everything's a PSA 10 for people that are familiar with traditional collecting. Everything's perfectly, it's in perfect condition. There's no edges or corners bent. There's no scratching, nothing like that. So everything's in perfect condition. But then I think what that sheds a light on or places a spotlight on, I should say, is that mint count, serial count, and whatever serial number you happen to have become far more relevant because that quantity is never going to diminish. So the supply is set in stone, except for something like Titan burning, which we're going to talk about as well. But in a bubble, we've got 2,700 of a guy or 500 of a guy or 250 of a guy, and that is what it is. So if you have that one serial, if you have the jersey serial of that player, there's an additional emphasis on that because you're not going to have cards get lost or damaged over time. They're all going to be relevant. So I definitely think that is one of the reasons why David and I focus so heavily on the serial count. And with any given product that we get into, that's one of the first things you want to know. Are there 100 of these things or are there 10,000 of them? And that has hurt other projects. It has hurt things within candy. There are some things that were a little too big too soon with candy. So it's definitely important to understand that has both positive and negative factors involved with it. But in terms of, you said that it's a really fun thing within the clubhouse, and that was one of the parts that I really enjoyed talking with Jordan about. And he said that Danny Jansen, Alec Manoa, some of the other guys have gotten into it. So has that continued to snowball in any way? Has anybody new gotten into it? Has anybody doubled down any further?
You know what? That's it's interesting that you asked that because I think that will be, the quickest answer is no, which I think is wonders about candy moving forward. Is like these pack drops are done, right? Now we got Titan to look forward to, but what's next? What can candy keep doing to keep guys interested and keep new customers coming in, and when I go to a teammate, say Bo Bichette, and say, hey, your Epic's here, you should buy it or whatever, and maybe he gets into it, and then you say like, okay, well, what's next? And you're like, well, I don't know. So he's like, so I just hold on to this thing. You're like, yeah, I didn't collect baseball cards as a kid or whatever, but I do think this little dead period right here between the sixth pack drop and Titan, has been kind of quiet and been kind of dead. And I think, that goes to show you that Candy has a lot on their hands as far as keeping people interested and how do you not oversaturate the market? Like, are they just going to start coming out with new packs after that? And then all of a sudden now there's already the stuff from the All-Star game last year. Now you got these packs. So they're going to be new packs, so it is interesting wondering what Candy can do moving forward to keep people interested because I feel like over the last couple of weeks we're starting to see that might be a challenge because it's what have you done for me lately? It's how baseball works and that seems to be how baseball NFTs work too.
Yeah, we're definitely in a lull, and I think that in doses, it's healthy because it gives people an opportunity to plan for their Titans and get into the gamification of that. But I agree with you. We're in a tough spot here. I mean, every market is down, obviously, right? Crypto, NFTs, the regular stock market, everything's in a tough place. So tough time to be a startup digital collectible company. On top of that, the user base just isn't quite where Candy was hoping it was going to be at this point. And so they had to kind of scramble to add things like this Titan burning, which I have no doubt things like this were on the docket. It was coming at some point, but I think they were hoping that just volume and user base and high demand was going to be enough to buoy things for a little while. So I agree with you. We need more things like this. The Titan burning was a huge shift in the perception of, okay, there are going to be fun elements to this. But to your point, you introduce somebody new, okay, it's a collectible, and some people are going to latch onto that right away because, like you said, that's traditional collecting. But there's also this layer of video game culture that exists in NFTs that I think is really important to continue leveraging. Otherwise, you don't have that physical part to it. So you can't hold it and look at it. So being able to look at it digitally needs to continue to improve. There needs to be things to do with it. I don't know if you saw, but they just implemented really nice new feature in terms of when you go into your collection and you click on a card that you own, you can see a lot more data, a lot of visualization of the data. And so moving in a direction like that to better appreciate what you're holding, I think that stuff is important too. Even if it's not gamified, it can just be a matter of enjoying what you have. I think that will allow people to get on board a little bit more with it just being collectible. But yeah, Candy's defining themselves right now, and you can go a lot of different directions with it. And I think that right now they're focused on bringing collectibles to the collector. But like you said, we need there to be some continued activity that connects us with these cards a little bit more. And you had said in your notes to me something like Pokemon where we're battling them, and I love that because you and I are right around the same age, so I related to that immediately. And the thought of that is really exciting. One of the problems is that I don't know if you saw the So Rare partnership with the MLB, which is another NFT company. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
So they're the exclusive fantasy baseball partner, whatever that means, and we're supposed to see it this summer. So then the question, and something that I've been pondering, speaking to, is what can Candy do to think outside the box and create continued gamification that maybe isn't just traditional fantasy baseball? I don't know if you had any thoughts on what that might look like.
Right. So the So Rare deal comes through our PA, right? So I think that's through our PA, which is just the player side, and Candy's more with MLB. What that means, I don't know how that interacts with fantasy baseball. I don't really know. What I meant with the Pokemon thing is essentially like, I have X amount of cards. I can run out of lineup, right? Like I have a Danny Jansen catcher. I got a Jose Ramirez at third. I got a Bo Bichette. I got an Aaron Judge, on and on and on. And the more rare, whether it's an epic rare, whatever, so my Judge is a rare, my Bo is an epic. Those are, powerful cards. And I can run them out there. Bo's in the leadoff. He's an epic. Oh, whatever. I didn't play a lot of Pokemon. I know you said we're the same age. I didn't. So I didn't even understand how, like if I threw a Snorlax out there against your Charizard, I don't know what that means. I don't know who wins. But, I always thought that seemed like just such an easy one for us to be able to like almost play each other in a way. And then what we've always said is the fun of collecting the physical cards back in the day was trading them, right? Like we had the marketplace, that's fun. You're buying and selling. But I want to be able to offer Romano, a my judge for his trout or whatever, or package two cards together for a trout or because I've never opened a trout. I've never had a trout. I'd love to have one. I don't have a Kershaw I played with for 5 years. Just haven't bought one on the marketplace because, I'm kind of waiting for the right opportunity or whatever. But I would like to be able to offer trades. I think that, brings us back to the OG way when we were young and how we used to do it. I think that would be a good addition. And I don't know if it's on the radar or not. I imagine it is, and they're probably trying to roll out like one thing every so often, right, to keep people interested. But I think that would be like just clear in the face, nostalgic for all of us that collected cards as kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are huge elements that, to your point, it's not exactly gamifying the cards themselves, but it's collector culture. It's allowing people to interact with each other's collections like we used to when we were kids. Take a look at their inventory, they take a look at yours, and see what you can come up with. So I agree that getting to a place where that is feasible would be significant. There are challenges with, skirting around the fees and things of that nature that are the business model that generate the revenue for Candy, but there's gotta be some way to do it, whether it be, looking at previous sales and coming up with some sort of trade fee to mitigate that. But I agree that giving people a way to interact with each other on a collector level would be really nice. Not to mention being able to send a free card to a buddy that you want to get into it. So, continuing to expand the user base through including people with the stuff that you already have, having that be a possibility would be huge in growing the collector base, in my opinion, anyway. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, spot on.
so let's jump into your collection a little bit here. I've got not everything, but these are the 6 guys that you said to me in the notes that you're looking to grab a Titan of. So we've got Kimbrel, Nola, we've got they just flipped over, but let's see, Hader, Jazz, and then we got Jose Ramirez and Christian Yelich. So you kind of spoke to it a little bit already, but were these all just it fell into your lap based on deals that you found? Are some of these your buddies? Did you play with what's some of the rationale behind these being the 6 that you're looking to get Titans of?
All right, so the Nola, Jazz, Yelich, and Jose Ramirez were all pulls from what you touched on earlier with the Buxton. Those were pulls from packs where it was just the obvious choice to go ahead and start upgrading them, right? Because you're already 40 points in, right? Isn't that what a Epic is? And they're worth 40?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm already 40 in, so I got to find another 11 or 12, which is easy to do and not that expensive, right? So then the Kimbrel and the Hater I touched on earlier, I just saw when I was kind of scouring the Epic market that just seemed way undervalued. And guys that I love what they do. And the relievers. Relievers are always undervalued. That's just the way it goes. But, you could argue Kimbrel's a top 3 closer in the history of the game. And Hader's a top probably 2 or 3 closer in our game currently. And, just guys that I thought were a deal. And I had some candy balance at the time and pulled the trigger. And then I believe went on to the marketplace to buy some uncommons and some stuff for them to be able to upgrade. So that's in the simplest version how that's gone down. Now I have a Bo Epic and I have a Judge Rare that are always in the back of my mind of like, man, I should pull the trigger. And the Bo one's easy, right? I just got to find another couple points. But I also think that when it's the week to tighten those guys, I think those cards are going to go nuts. So I think it's an easy way to maybe if you don't want to spend the money on a Judge, which is going to be expensive, Vladdy Judge or Tawny Trout, like they're head and shoulders above everyone else. Be expensive to go find the rest of those points. Well, if they're going crazy over that Titan week, I might just be able to list that thing for 100, 150 bucks, 200 bucks, whatever. And someone pull the trigger because they're desperate for a Titan, then I can flip that with my candy balance to buy a Kershaw or a Seager or a Vladdy or whatever, someone that maybe is more close to me in my baseball career, someone that I would enjoy owning longer term than an Aaron Judge who, I have to face and try to get out. So I don't want to bring him too much good mojo.
Yeah. I mean, same mindset in terms of there's going to be price action the week of a given guy getting his Titan. So for me, it's I'm sitting on a stack of 39 points of Acuna, and I just didn't quite get there with good deals. So the last 12 points are going to be expensive. And to your point, I can either pay up for it and get that Titan, or just wait until his week and flip all those cards for 2, 3, 4x what I paid for them and continue playing the game. So definitely agree with you on that. Something that been speculating on for weeks now, that there are going to be different levels to these guys having relevance, having attention on their names. So at first we saw all the uncommons lift the floor up to be in line with the different point values and things like that. We saw a lot of these guys with 1/1s that were guaranteed to get the Titan treatment. Those guys all went up right away. They all pretty much doubled. But then I think while we have those of us that are aware of all of that right now and therefore have, risen those floors in the middle of this waiting period, we're also going to have a bunch of people that don't know about it or that aren't paying close enough attention, that the week that you can burn Nola, the week that you can burn JRAM, that's going to be the week where they're like, oh no, I need to do this now. So I do think that that's where we're going to see some additional bump in those guys' prices. And to your point, you definitely have the option to just sell Judge that week and not think too much about what he might do. So I think for me, I've got about similar number to you, 6, 7, 8 guys that I've got queued up ready to go. And it's a combination of ones that are guaranteed and ones that are not, which was something that I wanted to speak on here, which is that you've got Kimbrel and you've got Jazz, and those are the two guys that only go up to Epic. Surprisingly, that Jazz only went up to an Epic, but I think you're safe with both of them. Kimbrel obviously having a little bit of a shaky year, kind of a roller coaster of a year. Jazz should be good to go, but I think that given the track record of Kimbrel, and I'm biased because I got 3 All-Star years here in Boston with him, so I love Kimbrel, but yeah, I think you've got 6 guys that you should be safe with.
Yeah, the Kimber one worries me. I didn't do my due diligence when I went and bought it because I just assumed like, dude, he's a top 3 closer. And I understand, I said it earlier, it's what have you done for me lately? But man, he's been as dominant as anybody. It's like Chapman, him, and Kenley Jansen over the course of, this generation of baseball have just been absolutely dominant. So the fact that I just kind of assumed he had a legendary because of his track record alone. And then, now I'm sitting here waiting to see if he's going to be able to get tightened. That one, it wouldn't break my heart if I can't do it, but I certainly would like the opportunity to tighten them just because I went ahead and I pulled the trigger on all those in the marketplace. So those would not necessarily be sunk costs because I could turn around and flip them for probably less than I got them, but at least get a little bit of it back. But I think if I could tighten, so just to continue, part of this is I think I'm probably going to sell all of these once I tighten them. It just how I do it. That's why I enjoy doing this. Is I think that I would tighten these guys besides the Jose Ramirez, probably list them all right away and see if I can take advantage of like an early, group of people trying to come to the market to buy some Titans, maybe that weren't able to upgrade, but like these players, for whatever reason, fans of the team, all that kind of stuff. So that's my plan here versus Romano, who's going to tighten them and probably keep them and take him to his grave with him because he loves them so much. My plan is to flip these, get that candy balance up some more, and then whatever they come out with next, have that ready and, kind of continue my collection that way.
That's cool to hear because there are so many ways to do it. And, like you're speaking to, the time to sell is when all the attention is on it, when all the hype is there and it's right in the middle of it. And like you said, some people aren't going to have the points stacked up, not going to have the luxury to do it themselves. So even if you want to go buy one back a month later, 6 months later, the hype, as we've seen, when a new pack drop comes out, when a new product comes out, it's basic concepts that when all the attention is there, it's part of the hype cycle, and it's a good time to consider selling if it's not something that you're choosing to hold in the super long term. So cool to hear the different mindset on it there. So one of the other things that I was going to jump into here was what do you think other than gamification, other than we're talking about Titans and different potential options here, but what are some things that you specifically with your perspective as a player and what you see in the clubhouse, what are some other things that you think Candy could do with some of the real life elements to it? We've seen one-of-one auctions come with some access to different things. what would you like to see in terms of connecting players and fans more? Because I think that that is one of the biggest opportunities with that Candy has and digital collectibles, being able to add that utility on the back end whenever they want. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're spot on. I think NFT projects in general is all about the utility, right? Like you can try and sell me hoodies and give me a hat with the NFT on it all you want. Like that stuff's cool, but why do I own it? Why do I buy it? Why am I going to hold it forever? And I'm talking about, all these NFT projects. You're talking about Bored Apes. What you're really getting into is a massive social group, right? Like that's why you're buying a Bored Ape is you're getting access to some of the most rich and famous people in the world. Candy's a little different, but you could technically get access to players. If you're a major baseball fan, there's a world where you could connect us to fans pretty easily through this platform and through these NFTs. And there's a variety of ways, right? I mean, you could do jersey giveaways, ticket giveaways. You could have like a suite. I think that it might even be in the mix where like every stadium has a suite, like a candy suite. And if you own a certain NFT, maybe you get like drawn into a raffle to go into the suite on a given day or whatever. I mean, it's like the possibilities are endless. And it seems right in their face. Now, I will say we're tough. We're tough to like crack and to hold down in the season, man. We got 162 games, 185 days, whatever it is. A lot of us don't want to do stuff before and after games. It's just kind of the nature of the beast with us, especially those of us with families. I got a 16-month-old son who I want to spend every minute with, and if you're telling me I got to go to the stadium an hour early, it better be worth it. So it's going to be tough to kind of get us on board with some of that stuff, but it's also right there. So I do think the options are endless. It's just a matter of coming up with some creative ones that get players involved, that fans get excited about, and getting some synergy there. But it feels like it's too easy, and it's going to happen because we already have the deal, right? We already have the MLB deal with Candy, so it's not going anywhere. So we might as well keep growing it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that it's as simple as like what you and Justin Turner do, jumping into Discord and just chatting with people for a little bit. That means a lot. These are the people collecting these cards are diehard baseball fans, and having that, even just that low level of access, it's authentic. It's something that you don't get with physical baseball cards. You don't get it with video games. It just doesn't exist. So Discord's a really cool piece of NFTs in general. The community element of NFTs provides a scenario for this to exist. So it's appreciated. I know people appreciate it when you jump into Discord and things like that. So, but
yeah, it's sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
It's rewarding for me too. I actually really enjoy getting in that Blue Jays Discord chat. And after a good outing, and I'll get on there, it'll be like 5 or 6 people that said like chicken strip, good job, or whatever, like fun to see, or good slider there in the third, or whatever it is. Like that stuff's fun for me to get on and read because it's different than the normal Twitter, Instagram interactions that I get. Like these people are on kind of a separate app, and they have some passions interlined with mine, right, with this candy stuff and NFTs, and it's just different, and it feels more authentic. Even though I don't see them, I don't know them, we all have fake names, all that stuff. It just feels more personable on the Discord. So I've actually really enjoyed it. I haven't done it as much as of late, but when I was on there more, and kind of, you could have a conversation with someone in 5 minutes. Just fun, yeah, more rewarding, more to it. It's just, it's just better than traditional social media, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely appreciated, and I agree that it just feels a little bit more authentic. It's a little bit more real than, say, Twitter or Instagram or whatever. Something about it is just, it's a little bit more, it's meant to be a community tool, and because you're having real conversation, it's just little different element to it, which is, I think, something that a lot of people enjoy about being part of this community. I know it's been a factor for me, absolutely. So I appreciate you taking the time. I don't know if there's anything else in particular that you wanted to talk on, any other ideas that you have, or elements of your collection that you wanted to speak on.
See, I'm going through what I texted you right here.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to talk about if you hear anything from the original Stadium series. I loved those. I thought those were great, and I bought probably like 12 of them. Some people listening, this was like the first thing that Candy really came out with. They hired an artist who did kind of these digital renderings of very niche certain spots of every stadium. Some of you probably wouldn't even recognize. You'd be like, what stadium is that? You'd be like, oh, okay. And then some of them are like in your face. And they're still on OpenSea only. You can't bridge them over into the Candy marketplace. But I love those things, man. I got like my Bitsky wallet that I keep them on, and I'll look at them every now and then. Those could have real utility as well, right? These individual player ones, could have utility to the player, but those stadium ones are just obvious ones to have utility to the stadiums, right? Talking about the suite or BP passes or whatever they could lead to, man. I love those things. I don't know if you've heard anything about what the future was with those, if anything.
Yeah, so I have one myself. I've got Fenway Park. I unfortunately was a little bit late to those, so I wasn't able to mint them. But I've paid attention to them enough and heard a little bit of whispers. One of the things on the roadmap for this year, I think for this year, is to bridge the ability to anything you have on OpenSea or Bitsky, bring it over to the Candy Marketplace. So I think that that's something that we're all looking forward to in terms of being able to buy and sell those things, and should make it easier. So having that bridge built will be significant. But in terms of utility, anything of that nature, I was hoping to see more in this baseball season. Haven't heard anything about that. To your point, I think that it's a really simple, you've got different ways to connect with different parts of the game. And the Stadium Series is a way to connect with the fans of that particular team. And so with a conversation that I had the privilege to have with Scott Lawin, who's the CEO of Candy, at VCon a few weeks ago, he spoke to the fact that every relationship with every MLB team is a little bit different. So you've got a few different buckets. You've got teams that are like, yes, let's do this. This is a cool opportunity. We want to do this for our fans right now. You've got a bucket of teams that are saying, we'll be fast followers if this works. And then you've got a bucket of teams that are just, they've got their own fish to fry, and it's just not really going to happen right now. And I think that probably falls in line with what, caliber of team it is, right? You've got teams like Boston, LA, New York. They've got such a huge fan base, and they've got so much going in terms of their fan interaction that you could see why it wouldn't necessarily be an immediate priority. Whereas a lot of these commemorative tickets and the season tickets that we're seeing, I don't know if you've seen those.
Yeah,
those are
I like them.
yeah, they're really cool. And I think it's a huge way to bridge that gap between your common fan that isn't necessarily aware of NFTs into this digital space. But yeah, it makes sense that with a smaller market team, you'd see it as something as, but we could give this a shot. Maybe this is something that brings people in more. So I don't know. What's your take on how teams are, as a whole, looking at this as an opportunity?
I think it's like almost the ratio of human beings to crypto, like adoption, right? It's like some teams, have owners or GMs or marketing departments that are very familiar with crypto and probably really understand it and maybe own some coins themselves or whatever. So when you go and bring this up to them, they're like, "Oh man, this is great. This is right in line with what I know and where I think the world's going." And then some of them might be like a 70-year-old man that you're talking to, and you're like, "Dude, what are you talking about? Like digital assets, digital uh, digital season tickets that aren't even real season tickets." I think it can just go over some guy's head. So you're right that talking to every individual team is probably a different experience for them. How about, do you think that Candy has benefited or struggled with actually being kind of crypto adjacent? Right, you don't use Ethereum to buy these. You don't use any kind of altcoin to buy these. They're used with U.S. dollars, and even though the crypto market is just turmoil right now, this is a little bit separate, right? Because you go in and you buy it with your credit card, you have a Candy balance and all that. You don't really have to know anything about Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's I wonder if that's actually helped it or hurt it, because then probably real crypto people are saying it's not even an actual crypto project. It's just a digital asset or whatever it is they'd say.
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think you've got certain people that the ease of onboarding is significant, and if they haven't previously educated themselves on crypto or a MetaMask wallet and NFTs in the traditional sense, you don't need to, and that's really burdensome if you're somebody that knows nothing about it. There's a huge learning curve there to getting comfortable with those transactions and gas fees and all of that stuff. So I think that from that perspective, it's a really good thing, because it makes your average collector that isn't necessarily educated in this space able to come on with as little friction as possible. But the other side of that are your crypto natives, are your NFT natives, and especially when you're talking about some of the bigger ticket items, Titans will be one of those things, the 2021 cards, the Stadium Series, the Jackie Robinson Series, anything with a really low mint count. I think those things are being hurt by the fact that there's no crypto, because even though we're in a bear market right now and, things aren't great, I've always had this theory that you've got people that have been around in crypto for a lot longer than just the last year, and they're sitting on piles of ETH that are worth a lot more than what they bought them for. And within that portfolio, they're looking at their finances differently. So I think that jumping into something like a Jackie Robinson bust, or even some of these one-of-one auctions, I think could have gone for ridiculous numbers if you had that access to crypto sooner. So yeah, I think it's a scale, and it impacts it positively and negatively depending on the conversation.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess my last question would be, who should I be targeting, man? Who's your research showing is undervalued or whatever? Jose Ramirez. That's kind of why I got into him. I just feel like he's just so undervalued, almost like a Freddie Freeman. And I think the marketplace values him fairly-ish to slightly undervalued. He's still up there with some of the better players, no doubt. Is there anybody that like sticks out to you that's just like, dude, this guy should be going for twice as much as he is?
I mean, I definitely had some thoughts similar to you with pitchers. Like Michael Kopech is just tearing it up this year, and he was too cheap to not do. So I stacked him and have made some similar plays with, just like you said, guys that are just ridiculously cheap. Trey Mancini, I just like his story, so I stacked him before he got announced. He's going to get one. I had some that fell into my lap like yours, but I would say, Devers is a big one for me. Huge Red Sox fan. His MVP season is ahead of him. I can't imagine that we've seen the best from him yet. So I'm big on him. But to answer your question, I've got my guys that I've got my affinities towards. But the real answer is that to anybody that is looking to make a Titan play right now, I would say pick somebody in lineups 4, 5, or 6 because of the supply deficit. So the first two lineups are fully distributed at this point, and the third lineup is distributed 50% because sales did pretty well. They effectively sold out even with the half vault. But with these last three lineups, we only saw about 50% of what was supposed to be sold, which means that we've got 75% of it vaulted. So based on that supply demand equation, I'm looking at guys in lineups 4, 5, and 6, because I just think that there's going to be less people minting them, which means that you're not going to get anywhere near 100 of those Titans. And if you pick the right guys that are, for me, Devers and Acuna are both in lineup 4. That was when I started making a play on a later lineup guy. I think that that's going to pay dividends in the long run, just in terms of the supply and demand element of it. So to me, that's the answer: is find a guy that you personally like in those later lineups where the supply is much lower. And fortunately, even with the looming cloud of when are they going to distribute these other packs, which will have an impact at some point, it fortunately shouldn't unless they do something in the very short term, it shouldn't impact Titans, because the ship will have sailed already, and whoever mints those Titans, it's going to be done. So maybe there's a full 100 Trout, but will there be 100 Acuna with only 25% of the supply on his card out there? Probably not. So to me, a guy like Acuna is a lot more appealing than a guy like Trout, simply based on the numbers.
Love to hear it, man. That's right up my alley. So, that's stuff I didn't know. So it's cool to hear that, and the numbers behind it. It makes total sense. So I think Seager was in either 5 or 6. So I'll probably start eyeballing him.
Yeah, for sure. Well, glad I could be of some assistance there, and very much appreciate you coming on, taking the time. Very much, it's enjoyable to get different perspective. You guys are the players on these cards. You're in the clubhouse, you're talking with guys, and you've got a totally different perspective on it. So it's, everybody enjoys getting that take, and so very much appreciate you taking the time to do so.
Yeah, Nate, this was fun, man. Thanks for having me.
We'll have to do it again. Until next time, this is Talkin Candy, and we'll see you guys in the next one.